In this video, I'll show you how any newbie can create that dark, moody, Netflix-style look that instantly makes your footage feel more intense, emotional, and high-end, all inside DaVinci Resolve. Let's do this. So having the time slider over here, so let's go over to the color page. I'm going to use this node, and I'm going to label this as dark base mood. So we're going to bring down our lift, we're going to reduce our shadows, and also reduce our highlights. And the important thing is we're going to reduce our saturation. I found that 36 is a good desaturation value for this particular clip. And the last thing I want to do is I'm going to add a bit of contrast as well. Next, let's go into our log wheels. And I'm going to reduce the highlights to about minus 0.07. Next, let's add another node. I'm going to hit Option S or Alt S on a Windows and create another node. And I'm going to label this Cool Atmosphere. I'm going to go into my shadows and I'm going to move my shadows towards that cool blue that we see. I'm going to manually move the blues, not too much, about there. I'm going to do the same, but not too much, just a little for my midtones as well. Next, let's go into our HDR. Let's go all the way back and we're going to first work on our blacks. I'm going to improve my exposure of my blacks to about 0.5. I'm going to work on my darks and lift the exposure just a bit to about 0.05. I'm going to do the same with my shadows and improve that to about 0.18. Let's work on our light and highlights. You can see the light areas are over here. I'm going to increase the exposure of the light to about 0.27 and I'm going to reduce the highlights to about 0.4. The last thing we're going to do, I'm going to just go over to my specular. I'm going to add a little bit more exposure to my specular as well. And you can see in the before and after that the footage looks a lot more moody and desaturated. Now there's one last thing we need to do for this, which is I'm going to go over here, hit Option S or Alt S on Windows, create another node, and I'm going to label this as texture and depth. And I'm going to add an effect to this. So what I'm going to do, having this selected, I'm going to press Shift plus space. I'm going to add a vignette to this node. I'm going to open this effects settings. I'm going to change the operating mode to advanced. I'm going to change the size to about 0.630. And I'm going to add a little bit of anamorphism to this, maybe 2.36. I'm going to take this center point and I'm going to move this all the way to the character's face. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the softness 1 and I'm going to make the transparency to about 0.54. And if you see the before and the after, you can already see that this particular footage, it looks a lot more desaturated and moody, and it fits that particular narrative if you're trying to go for that look. Next, let's just open our stills and I'm going to right click and hit grab still and label this as moody and desaturated. Now there's one last thing I want to do to this footage, which is if you see that I can't really make much of a difference on the character's face. And usually the eyes go on to the face of the character. So what I'm going to do is just before the texture and depth, I'm going to hit Shift plus S and create a node. Before that, I'm going to label this as face refinement. And we're going to go into our masks. I'm going to grab a circular mask. I'm going to quickly place this on the subject's face like that. Just increase the softness a little bit. Then I'm going to go into the tracking and I'm going to click on frame. That's pretty important. And then I'm going to track forward and back. And it does a very good job. Then let's go into our HDR. And now we're going to work on our darks. Let me just zoom in so that you can see what I'm working on. I'm going to reduce the exposure to about minus 0.18. I'm going to do the same for our shadows. And on our light, we want to improve the exposure to about 0.45. So you can see the before and the after, and this adds a little bit more detail to the subject. The last thing I want to do is I want to go into our blur sharpen and reduce the radius to about 0.45 so that we can see a lot more detail standing out when you see the clip. Let's go over to our next footage. And what we're going to do, remember that still we grabbed? We're just going to go over here and we're going to hit apply grade. And it does 95% of the job for most of your clips. Now we're going to work on that 5% for this footage. Let's select the first node, go into our wheels. I'm going to reduce the shadows to about minus 27. I'm going to reduce the highlights to about minus 41. Then let's just quickly go into our cool atmosphere, the second node. I'm going to bring down the shadows once again and the highlights and improve the gain. Next, let's go into our log wheels, and I just want to reduce the highlights a little bit like that. Let's go into our HDR wheels and let's go all the way back. And if you see the shadows over here, I want to bring this down to about minus 0.18. Now, the last thing you want to do is work on the texture and depth and open our FX. And I'm just going to enable the OpenFX overlay. I'm going to position this over here so that the vignette needs to be neatly around the subject. I'm going to reduce the size to about 0.3, and I'm going to bring down the anamorphism to about 0.330. So if you see the before and after, it adds that nice little soft vignette, whereas the subject still remains exposed. And there you go. So that's how you create that moody and desaturated look in DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to show you how you can quickly create that as LUTs so that you can use it on any footage and don't have to do all this the next time. I'm just going to disable this mask. We don't need that. And for the rest of the stuff, I'm going to select this clip, right click, generate LUT, 33 point cube. I'm going to label this moody and desaturated. So let's go back to the edit page, and I have these 3 clips that are ungraded. Now let's say I want to quickly drag and drop this onto the timeline and add a quick grade. Now what do? So select this clip, let's go into our color page, and now let's open our LUTs. So under custom LUTs, I have my LUTs. I want to add that moody and desaturated look, and I can just drag and drop it. So there you go. I hope this hack really helps you out. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something, and if you did, then be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, because I'll soon be sharing more cool and interesting creator and filmmaking hacks inside of DaVinci Resolve and more. Be sure to drop a comment down below and let me know what you want to learn next, and until then, I'll see you in the next video.